In early 1974, when Mick Jagger showed David Bowie Guy Peellaert's stunning artwork at his house, he didn't think he was making a mistake. It was a casual evening in Chelsea. Jagger's living room walls were covered with Peellaert's paintings, vivid, surreal portraits that seemed to leap off the canvas. The Belgian artist's newly released Rock Dreams book was taking the rock world by storm, and Jagger had secured Peellaert for the Rolling Stones' new album. He'd flown to Munich to meet the artist personally. "What do you think of this guy?" Mick asked proudly. Bowie studied the paintings carefully. "Incredible," he said, but something else was going through his mind. The moment he left that night, he grabbed the phone. 5 months later, everyone would think the Rolling Stones had copied Bowie, but the truth was the exact opposite. This was one of the biggest artist heists in rock history. Before diving into this incredible story, don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button. Get ready to discover the untold stories of David Bowie and Mick Jagger that nobody knows about. Guy Peellaert was born into an aristocratic family in Brussels in 1934. He rebelled against his family, immersing himself in jazz, film noir, and American pop culture. He left home young and studied fine arts in the 1960s, becoming known for his psychedelic art and pop art-influenced work. Between 1970 and 1973, Peellaert created 125 paintings depicting rock legends in surreal situations. The Rolling Stones in Nazi uniforms, Elvis in a police uniform, Otis Redding sitting on a dock. In 1973, he prepared these paintings with British rock journalist Nick Cohn for a book called Rock Dreams. Published in 1974, it became a phenomenon. The cover showed Elvis Presley, John Lennon, Bob Dylan, Mick Jagger, and David Bowie in a diner, rock music's Last Supper. It sold 1 million copies. John Lennon framed the cover. Jack Nicholson bought most originals. Elle magazine named Peellaert the Michelangelo of pop. But while Mick Jagger thought he had locked down Peellaert for the Rolling Stones, David Bowie was making his own plans. And this move would haunt Jagger for years. When Mick Jagger contacted Peellaert in late 1973, he was thrilled. He'd found the perfect cover artist for the Rolling Stones' new album. He made a deal. Peellaert would work exclusively for the Stones. Jagger was so happy he told everyone. At the time, Bowie and Jagger were neighbors and close friends. Angie and David Bowie had moved into a large house in Chelsea. Mick and Bianca Jagger lived nearby. The two families got together often. Dinner parties, gallery openings, late-night sessions listening to unreleased music. It was a competitive friendship where both men pushed each other creatively while trying to outdo one another. One day, Bowie stopped by Jagger's house. Mick excitedly showed him Peellaert's paintings, amazing illustrations that looked like they'd come straight from the Rock Dreams book hung on the walls. "What do you think of this guy?" Jagger asked. Bowie studied the paintings carefully. "Incredible," Bowie said. "This guy's a genius." Jagger smiled. "I know, he's doing our new album cover, coming out in October." When Bowie got home, he had a plan. He was working on the Diamond Dogs album, a dystopian, dark project inspired by George Orwell's 1984. The Orwell estate had refused him the rights, forcing him to reimagine the concept. It was his first album without Mick Ronson, without the Spiders from Mars crew. He was producing it himself, feeling isolated but creatively charged. He had an idea for the cover, a half-man, half-dog creature named Halloween Jack, leader of a gang in post-apocalyptic New York. But he hadn't found the right artist to bring it to life until he saw Peellaert's work at Jagger's house. The way Peellaert blended photorealism with surrealism, that was exactly what Diamond Dogs needed. Bowie acted immediately. He found Peellaert's phone number through a mutual friend in the art world and called that same evening. "This is David Bowie. I want to work with you on my new album. The concept is fully formed. I just need the right artist to execute it. Can we meet for breakfast tomorrow?" Peellaert was surprised by the directness. He'd given his word to Jagger, but Jagger hadn't followed up in weeks, and Bowie's offer was intriguing, urgent, impossible to ignore. "Okay," said Peellaert after a moment's hesitation, "let's meet for breakfast." But this is where the really interesting part of the story begins. Because Peellaert found himself in a genuine dilemma. He'd promised Jagger, but Bowie was offering something creatively irresistible. On January 30, 1974, Bowie and Peellaert met at a cafe in London. Bowie arrived wearing sunglasses and a long coat. Already in character, he spread sketches across the table and explained his concept with intensity: a half-man, half-dog hybrid, Coney Island freak show aesthetic, dystopian New York, the collapse of civilization seen through the eyes of a street gang. Peellaert was mesmerized by the scope of the vision, but he'd promised Jagger. "There's a photo shoot this afternoon with Terry O'Neill," Bowie said, sensing the hesitation. "Come watch, see the concept in action, then decide." Terry O'Neill's studio was chaotic that afternoon. Bowie brought a Great Dane, a massive animal. O'Neill remembered, "Every time I took a photo, the dog would bark at the strobe light." Bowie wore a Spanish hat and high-heeled boots, shirtless. When the dog lunged at the light, everyone scattered, but Bowie didn't flinch. "Everyone ran," O'Neill said. "The dog lipped barking, but David didn't even blink." That moment captured one of rock's most iconic images: calm Bowie and the barking dog frozen mid-air. Peellaert watched, impressed by Bowie's vision. When the shoot ended, Bowie asked, "Can you paint me as half man, half dog?" Years later, Peellaert admitted, "David tricked me. The idea was so interesting I couldn't refuse." Peellaert said yes that day. Bowie's album would drop in May, Jagger's in October. 5 months later, when Peellaert returned to Paris, he got to work. He used O'Neill's photos but added his signature hyper-real surrealist style. He depicted Bowie as truly half-man, half-dog, human top with ziggy hair, complete dog anatomy below with details that would later cause censorship issues. The background featured Coney Island's pleasure park. Behind Bowie were 2 dogs, inspired by Alzoria Lewis and Johanna Dickens, Coney Island performers from the 1930s-50s, known as the world's strangest family. But Peellaert added one detail: the full version showed dog Bowie's genitals. "The only problem was them making me take out the penis," Peellaert later said. RCA approved it initially, then panicked after the first batch. The genitals were airbrushed out, but a few hundred originals escaped, now worth $6,000 to $10,000 each. Diamond Dogs was released on May 24, 1974. Huge billboards appeared in Times Square and Sunset Boulevard, the year of the Diamond Dogs. RCA Records spent $400,000 on advertising, including subway posters throughout New York and full-page magazine ads. The campaign was everywhere across major cities. You couldn't walk through Manhattan without seeing that half-dog creature staring at you. And the album was a huge success, #1 in the UK, #5 in the US. But the real shock hadn't come yet. Everyone was asking, who is this Guy Peellaert, and why is he working for David Bowie instead of the Rolling Stones? When Mick Jagger first saw the Diamond Dogs cover, he was shocked. Peellaert's name was everywhere: Rolling Stone, NME, Melody Maker. Everyone was talking about this incredible half-dog design. And the Rolling Stones' It's Only Rock and Roll wouldn't come out until October. 5 months after Diamond Dogs, Jagger called Bowie. The conversation was tense. "How could you do this? I showed you, Peellaert. You stole my artist." Bowie stayed calm. "Mick, you showed me an artist. I wanted to work with him. This is the music industry." Peellaert was caught in the middle. He called Jagger and apologized. "Bowie tricked me, but the concept was too powerful to refuse. I'll work for you too." Jagger accepted. Peellaert worked for the Stones, depicting Jagger at the top of a Busby Berkeley-style staircase, but it was too late. When It's Only Rock and Roll came out in October 1974, everyone wondered if the Stones had copied Bowie. In a 1976 interview with Playboy magazine, Bowie showed no remorse whatsoever. By then the story had become legendary in rock circles, and the interviewer brought it up directly. Bowie's response was shockingly honest. "Mick was silly. I mean, he should never have shown me anything new. I went over to his house. Guy Peellaert pictures were everywhere, and he said, 'What do you think of this guy?' I told him I thought he was incredible, and I immediately phoned him up." He paused, then added with a slight smile that readers could almost hear through the printed words, "Mick's learned now. He's even scared to think a new idea in the same room as me. He knows I'll snatch it." The interviewer, clearly taken aback by Bowie's candor, asked, "Isn't that ruthless?" Bowie's reply became one of his most quoted lines: "You've got to be a bastard in this business." There was no apology, no attempt to soften the blow. In Bowie's worldview, the music industry was Darwinian, only the most aggressive survived. Music historian Christopher Anderson writes, Bowie and Jagger fought for Peellaert's time like jealous parents. The tension lasted for years, but eventually it softened. In the 1980s, both living in New York, they became close again. They'd see each other at clubs, galleries, dinner parties. The old rivalry seemed silly. In 1985, they recorded Dancing in the Street for Live Aid, creating one of the decade's most memorable duets. When Bowie died in 2016, Jagger said, David was always an inspiration to me. He cited Dancing in the Street as his favorite memory, not the Peellaert incident. The Diamond Dogs cover became a cultural phenomenon. Rolling Stone magazine named it the 51st greatest album cover of all time in 2024. The album marked the end of Bowie's glam rock era and his transition to funk and soul. The Diamond Dogs tour cost $250,000 and featured an elaborate Hunger City stage set, a nightmare cityscape with moving bridges and catapults. Nicholas Pegg called it the most elaborate stage set ever attempted for a rock tour. Peellaert became rock's most sought-after artist, creating posters for Taxi Driver 1976 and Paris, Texas 1984. But Diamond Dogs remained his most famous work. Peellaert died of cancer in Paris on November 17, 2008, at 74. In 2003, he said, I'm not afraid of death. Not having passion while you're alive, that's the terrible thing. The original Rock Dreams paintings remain in Jack Nicholson's home. David Bowie stealing Guy Peellaert from Mick Jagger wasn't just an artist fight, it reflected rock music's competitive world. In Bowie's own words, you've got to be a bastard in this business. But in the end, there were three winners. Peellaert worked on both Diamond Dogs and It's Only Rock and Roll, creating two iconic covers. Bowie released his album 5 months early, claiming Peellaert as his artist. Jagger eventually reconciled with Bowie, becoming one of his closest friends in the 1980s. This story shows the music industry's dark side, while reminding us of art's power. Peellaert's images still live on, Bowie and Jagger's music is still played, and that 1974 fight remains one of rock history's most interesting anecdotes. Today, the Diamond Dogs cover is one of rock's most recognizable visuals, and the story of how Bowie stole from Jagger is legendary. If this incredible artist heist story moved you, don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button. Share this video with someone who wants to learn rock music's hidden stories. Let us know in the comments, what would you have done if you were in Bowie's shoes? And don't forget to turn on notifications, because more untold stories of music's greatest legends are coming.